welcome back. It's Daybreak Africa, brought to you by KAFTAN Television right here in Ondo City. We are back to the most important segment of today, and today we'll be discussing recent tussle for tech dominance in Africa and what Nigeria stands to gain. We're not alone. We have someone here to do justice to the topic, a tech expert, Biodun bamigboye, the CEO of Ikhonede.
Welcome Biodun actually to the show. Actually, for those that don't know Biodun actually is the CEO of Ikhonede Limited and companies. Now, Biodun, how are you doing today?
Yeah, great, very great, and it's a great privilege to be here and to share my insights on the subject matter.
Your insight on the subject matter. Actually, thank you for coming. Actually, now you see we are looking at the part where you understand more of AI, artificial intelligence, as one of the biggest industries right now in the tech space. Let me just say the most popular right now, because many people are really looking into artificial intelligence. Recently, we saw Microsoft talk about investing over $80 billion on it in order to checkmate China's influence in Africa. But first, from your own perspective, why do you think artificial intelligence is having this kind of wave as we speak in the world of tech today?
Artificial intelligence has been around for a long time, but it gained dominance with the availability of a lot of data. And data powers the world, data rules the world currently. And the more data that foreign countries has about a country, the more they can have dominance and rule, the more they can predict the behaviors of citizens of that country. So data is very, very important. And the people that are in control of data is also very, very important, because the data that is controlled by a country that is in direct competition with you would not be necessarily made available to you 100%. Even if you would have access to it, it would be a processed form, not like the raw data. So there is this competition for extracting the data and its raw form and gaining the power from it. And we have witnessed the power of data in social media. It's one of the places where artificial intelligence and data has been put to play. For businesses that started as conversational business, now it's used to power businesses in advertisement and generating billions of the revenue. Even the CEOs of these companies are in the top 20 richest people in the world. And this was because they were able to start harvesting data many years back. So now that the world has wake up to the big capacity of data, so they are going beyond human behavior. There are a lot of data about climate, agriculture, or people's behavior, usage, and training these models where it's ours, who has power to it. So that is why there is a lot of play in this industry right now, because the power that is given to the people that own the data cannot be quantified. That's just it.
The power it gives cannot be quantified. So as we speak, the investment we are seeing in AI itself is more power based than just the whole peripheral of those business attached.
Yeah, it's more power based. If we are looking at the peripheral of businesses, some businesses are stable enough that if they are not adopting AI to the highest level, like they can leverage AI, but if they are not investing, they are still in business. But because it's a game of power, it's a game of what happened in the next 20 years. Would I have to be begging some other companies in order to leverage their large language model, or do I have my own powerhouse of data? So that is how investors think, that is how chief executive officers think, that is how business owners think. So they are trying to gain that power ahead of time. So it's definitely more power based than just investment, because the truth is the investment in these industries right now, most of these companies would not realize it in the short run. So it's a very long run game. Investing $80 billion is not like a short run game. It's a game of over 10, 15, 20 years, even if not more than that, for some businesses, because they already have like a stable business that is powering a lot of the things they are doing. But this is just like looking into the future and taking advantage of what they need to do at this moment in order to remain dominant in the future.
In order to remain dominant in the future, so they have to do all this. Now, looking at it, let's for our viewers who don't really, you know, I don't want to assume. Our viewers who don't really know much about AI, artificial intelligence, can you just bring them to knowledge a bit of what AI is exactly to the common man, especially to the normal African man out there who just goes about their daily businesses? From your own perspective, what do you think AI is to them?
Okay, if I'm going to break it down, I would say AI is actually, I'm looking for the simplest way, is actually a computer system having the ability to think like human being, making informed decision without direct human input. For example, in the past, an accounting company can supply the financial statement for 10 years, and it would require the need for a chartered accountant and expert to now go through the documents page by page, go through the documents, do analysis to know the profitability, to know the strengths, and to know a lot of decision-making power based on that information. But with the help of AI, just feeding the documents to the artificial intelligence machine, it is going to run this analysis beyond basic plus and minus calculation, comparing the data and doing a lot of in-depth analysis based on the training that has been given to that machine in the past, and it would make informed decisions faster. So one of the power that AI brought is the speed. For example, research in basic areas of life, not the in-depth, is taking lesser time. Before, you have to go to Google and visit 10, 15, 20 pages to ask a single question and gather your information. But with the help of artificial intelligence, you ask the question, then the AI starts going through different sources. It's arranged it for you in a format that is well presentable, like a structured article that you can just grab the information and make it your own immediately without needing more effort. So that is the power that AI has brought, ability to think like human without human interference, using data. So using data.
So you said something very much at that particular time. You talked about the fact that every company, every country tries to attract more data so they can predict and know and even have more influence on their person. Because when you talked about it, I begin to believe that the fact that AI works with data, definitely, unknowingly or knowingly, we are also sharing data to AI. That is, AI can know a bit about me, a bit about myself. Recently, I saw a trend on Twitter where they talked about the fact that, for those that don't know Twitter, X app, that they were talking about, let my AI roast me. You understand? Like, roast me. And so you just roast me, and the AI says a lot about you, that you begin to observe that this AI had been observing that this AI itself is picking up data from even our daily lives, some of the search we make on it and all those kind of things. So many companies are looking at the fact that they want to drag out influence from it, and they can be able to predict what next this person can do and all with it. So is it that on the undertone, I'm trying to just create a kind of conspiracy theory for myself, is that on the undertone, gradually our informations, even if we go on our WhatsApp, they will tell us that it's private. Our informations are being shared to some of these companies for futuristic reasons or not?
So this is the way it works. Currently, most companies try to build their own model, especially the biggest operators in the industry. They try to build their own models and use the data that they have access to train these models. To avoid the privacy concerns issues. Most of the time, I've always talked about privacy policy, terms and conditions. A lot of it has really saved them the stress. In fact, these days they update from time to time, saying we would use your data to train this model, although we not tell the model that it's particularly this person. We call it personally identifiable information, like to be head back. But over time, the models are so intelligent that they can predict as accurate as possible. Because even as human being, I have the ability to layer data. If I was told something which is about a particular person, and on another occasion, another person is saying another thing, now the identity of that person is revealed. There will be a part of the data that is intersecting that will make me know that the data, what I heard yesterday, is related to what I'm hearing today.
Yeah.
So yesterday I don't know the identity of the person, but today I know the identity of the person. So to the person that is currently talking, he has not divulged too much, but I had a piece of the information that I can join together, and I have much more. And that is the way it is with AI itself, because there is a lot of intersection in data, and the truth is life is in patterns. Human being, we behave in patterns. Everything we do, we've learned for over 20-30 years of our existence. So underneath, we are repeating the same thing. So most companies train on the data that they have access to. The Microsoft that I mentioned earlier, there's this Microsoft Recall that they try to introduce sometimes earlier this year. I don't know if it's actually now introduced, but I know there was a lot of people calling it out. They call it Recall because they said what you are doing on your laptop, you can just tell your laptop, the screen where I was looking at someone wearing red, can you take me back to that particular screen? And the AI model will try to look at what you are doing and where you are looking at somebody wearing red, and it will bring up that tab.
Wow.
So everybody was just like, this thing will be monitoring everything I'm doing for it to have the ability to do this. Another example of where artificial intelligence can easily harvest our data, like most people are not afraid, but me as a tech-oriented person, I'm always afraid of voice prompts, gadgets, and because, for example, if I say some commands now like, hey Google, hey Bixby, hey Siri, at any point in time, my phone that is asleep could answer me. That means it's listening always, and it's able to filter the right thing from the wrong thing. So every other thing I'm saying, because it's not making sense, it could choose to garbage it or process it and keep it somewhere else, and even use it to train itself like, okay, this person is not calling me. But whenever I just say that particular keyword, it pops up. Like, I'll just be like, this is a lot. This is a lot of data. So I won't be afraid, I won't be scared, I won't be surprised to see we even have it online, voice 100% simulated.
Simulated, yeah.
Even deep fake is becoming an issue now because of the public data of celebrities that are out there. Anybody, it is even harder to identify deep fake. For people that don't know deep fake videos, it is videos of a celebrity talking, but it is not actually them. And it is hard to distinguish, and they're even getting better at it. There is even a research that says the future of originality will be source. There is no way to distinguish fake from original. It's just the source. Everybody just follow. Is this KAFTAN TV? Okay, this is from them. If it's from any other place, I don't want to believe.
I'm not even sure whether as time goes by, even the source won't be there.
So that's exactly where we are in the game of artificial intelligence. I call it a game because with time in the future, there will be a shift to another thing. There is always definitely going to be a shift. But in this particular era, it is the AI era, and every company will continue to strengthen themselves in that line. Even companies that are not 100% tech related, they would be strengthening themselves. Like companies like financial institution, company like health institution, everybody will be taking advantage
even media
of
might
AI.
even take advantage of it.
Yeah, media, yes. I happen to work with a company that is trying to generate stories using artificial intelligence. So instead of getting raw data and taking it and taking a lot of time, so just put in the raw data into the model, then to generate a story out of the box with source, with reference and everything. So AI is kind of taking over every sector. And that is why, like I mentioned earlier, every business is actually plugging into it, and you would see more of it coming.
Wow.
Yeah, talking about tech, we are not just here to talk about just artificial intelligence, we're talking about tech at large. Spaces like the e-commerce, the mobile technology, cybersecurity and data protection. You know, the more the innovation, the Nigerian companies, tech companies grow, the more the concerns for cybersecurity. You know, what measure do you know, things going on, data breach, hacking into companies' databases and the rest. What measure do you think these innovative companies should take to strengthen more on security when we talk about cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity is something that should be taken very seriously, especially with the growth of AI. So this is part of the threat in the continent would even increase, where when we have these data centers, with the rise in technological innovations. So one of the primary measure to be taken is for the companies itself to make use of experts, to employ experts. In Nigeria, in the past 3 to 5 years, there has been a burst in the rate at which people are coming into tech, but the truth is it takes time for people to mature. The people that came into tech in the last 5 years would be more relevant, not like 100%, like 80% of them will be more relevant in 20, 30
years
and above, because it takes time to mature to defend all this kind of traits. So what I'm trying to say is, even as at today, there is limited number of experts that could really tackle all these challenges, because it takes, for people that are like very big in the industry today, started early 2000s, 2010, so it's only like 10 to 20% of people that started recently that have already made it to the top with enough experience to tackle all these things. So what I'm trying to say is, one, companies have to put out a part of the budget to recognize that this is actually very important, because most times businesses try to focus on operational costs, and they just want, because of the nature of the economy, it's not like I'm blaming any business, because it's hard to survive in this economy. Okay, let's just survive first, and the trade that we are not seeing yet, let's not bother about it. But it's actually a major concern. If companies could contact experts, do audits, there's what we call basic penetration tests, get a report of what their web app looks like, entries into their database, start with these basic implementations. And also, it is not the work of government alone. Companies should also put out plans to help train more talents, because there would be talent problem in the future. So the fact that a lot of people are coming into tech doesn't mean a lot of people are becoming a talent in tech. It takes a lot of training, a lot of practice, and a lot of hands-on experience doing the real thing. You know, there is difference between I learned it and I'm doing it. So all this process, so if companies could also join in the race to build tech talent, then the future of businesses would also be secured, because there's this law of demand and supply that would keep making itself like a big deal in the world of tech. If there is low number of people that knows it in, then the truth is you would have to pay higher, way higher for those few numbers. But if there is higher number of people that knows it, then
will pay lower.
There is more competition. Then you would have variety of resources. So I feel and I believe that enabling more people to come into tech would help to make talents available to businesses and ensure businesses are able to survive the incoming flow of trade as a result of the incoming and rising use of technology.
Incoming use and rising use of technology, actually. Now we're seeing something where China, with their Road and Belt initiative, are kind of dominating the world of tech, especially AI, especially in Africa. And now we are seeing Microsoft trying to, you know, combat that dominance with their own investments, over $80 billion actually. And we are seeing two people. Now, over time, if we look at it, even in place of international politics, international communications and everything, we discover that China and the United States and other countries out there are all in competition. There's this battle and crave to actually dominate countries and all that. We've seen the Cold War, we've seen the current economic war happening within countries and all that. We've seen threats of even a third world war happening, and people are already talking about the fact that the next war is going to be about tech in its whole glory and in its whole face. Now, do you think that this investment happening with Africa in high number is going to have a kind of risk to Africa's own personal dominance for itself, especially in the tech space, looking at the fact that you talk about the more we use tech, the more threats increase, and we don't really have the workforce here, or the amount of trained talent yet here in Africa to at least combat many of these external forces and the companies that are already investing heavily in this kind of technologies. And you said something earlier, you talked about the fact that the more data I have over you, the more influence I have on you. So China is having influence, US is trying to have influence through Microsoft. What's your take on the kind of power play or dominance happening especially in Africa at this particular time?
Africa is the only continent that needs to liberate itself from the dominance. Although it will take a long time, there is always the need for foreign investments to grow sectors of different continents, different countries. But when it comes to artificial intelligence, technology, I personally believed we need to take some level of control, because having their data centers on our soil means means a lot. One, for them, it is access to data at a faster rate.
Yeah.
So for example, internet is like traveling, data traveling through either cables. Now we even have satellite internet taking over everywhere, but cable is still the fastest.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of time for petabytes of data to travel from air down to their data centers across the world, and having them locally here would mean they would have access to more data, and more data is more power. More power is more influence. So where the problem would occur is if Africa as a country itself, if our governments, if private institutions that has the capability, although it still boils down to the government giving them the enabling environment and the contractual agreement to be able to execute that, to also have a giant share in this incoming raise of data centers, artificial intelligence. So at the end of the day, we won't like the results, because all our data would be in the hand of foreigners, and this means we would even have to ask for access in order to use some of these data, because we don't really have the facility to process them. So as much as we have foreign investors, it's a good thing in the sense there would be more employment, there would be some level of economic improvement. But on the other hand, if there is no local participation, local players in that industry as well, it would give us a lot of limits when it comes to technological advancement, because we are at the expense of the CEOs and the countries, and whether we like it or not, when we are mentioning some private sector, especially the big ones, we are mentioning the countries where they come from, because their country, we see them going to like, I don't know what they call it, like where they probe them, question them, ask them about their policy, learn to know what they are housing, how they are using their data.
Yeah.
Like you see their country having conversations with them from time to time. So most of these companies represent their country. So we really need African companies that would represent Africa in this sector as well, in order to secure the future of Africa in artificial intelligence, especially data center. We need it a lot. Most of our resources, most of our softwares, they are hosted abroad.
Wow.
And if for one reason or the other there is just a reason to say we are letting you go, we might not even have a viable alternative locally, because we don't have that at a high scale. If it is available, it might be at a lower scale compared to what we have in many countries abroad. So we need local players. That is one thing, because we don't have a choice. The truth is, foreign countries already has a grasp of Africa in different areas of life. Our mineral resources, politics, in many aspects. So it's not something we can really fight as at this stage, but it's something we can just change the narrative, work around it bit by bit, so that we can also have a say when it comes to that junction. When it comes to the situation, let's say we have a directly competing innovation that is extremely strong and it's suspended, what will be our option? So these are the ways I see it.
Well, we'll look more into that actually, but first we just need to go for Go Start and motivate ourselves in the aspect of business too, as well as we are also discussing tech. I know your business is still going to need tech at the end of the day, but then this is Go Start. Enjoy Go Start. When we're back, we'll continue with this.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak Africa. Right now we are going to be discussing the challenges, importance, and also what Nigeria stands to gain in the recent tussle for tech dominance in Africa.
So you said something actually the last time. You said we will need that, though we can't have everything at the same time. We can't, because the foreigners already have a grasp of almost every aspect of the African terrain, not just in the tech aspect, and there is really nothing we can do about it for now, but we can actually work around it. Now, from your own perspective, looking at the investments coming into tech from that aspect, even though we know it's for dominance and for influence, what do you think Nigeria as a country stands to gain from this very many investments? Looking at it, that Nigeria has, especially in the place of tech, Nigeria has a growing audience that are very extremely focused on that aspect too, as well, extremely interested in that aspect. Do you think there is something we can gain from this at the end of the day, and also become a world power in that aspect as time goes on?
So the first thing we stand to gain is innovation. We'd be able to innovate faster. So we see it at our corridor. We'd be able to access data faster as well. Like I mentioned earlier, for data to run through the Atlantic and go back is actually a lot. There is a lot of latency. So latency is the time it takes to move from that location, from one location to the other. So we have like lower latency, and startups in Africa would be able to leverage these solutions. So startups in Africa would be able to use it to power their solutions. So it would really be useful for startups, because most of the operators, they release a version that is available to the public, either free or paid. So, and having the data centers close to us means we can innovate faster. And also it's also a direct form of foreign investment, which would have some level of impact on the GDP
of the country.
So I have a background in accounting, and so it gives me the span to look at that angle as well. So once we have the investments within our economy, there is a lot of people that would be employed from within our economy, and there is a lot of impact. We don't really know how the whole arrangement could be, but in form of taxation, land use charge, or anything, there might still be some of the things that will be coming back to the country. So it has a lot of advantage, especially for innovators. It has a lot of advantage. If the only thing is just that, I don't know, it is two things. Maybe the documents are not made available, or Nigerians don't read. If we have access to like the nature of the contract, maybe just the white paper, we could really get more access to know what we are really standing to gain, because most of these are around the agreements, the contract,
yeah,
and the exchange between both countries for what they are establishing. Because like I mentioned earlier, for example, recently a lot of people have mixed feeling about Dangote refinery. Yeah, but either we like it or not, we have a working refinery that is owned by an African investor. So regardless of how much the tussle would be, when it comes to making decision, there will still be this African first decision making in that refinery. Even if like it will not be compared to when it's like coming from, we are exporting our crude oil and they are sending it back to us. This is in our soil, this in Lagos State. You understand what I'm trying to say? So depending on the nature of contract and everything, so it stands to have like a lot of advantage around employment, increase in GDP, and also faster innovations. So those are the major areas where I see it having an advantage. And on the other hand, we are talking about maybe some lapses that it might have. So we've emphasized on that. One is dominance, more dominance by having access to our data, and we even requesting access to use them. I was in a conference where one of the entrepreneurs was saying that foreigners brought a gadget to gather some agricultural data within our country. So after gathering the data and processing the data, they now have to request and make payment from within their ministry to have access to those data. So she was just like, she was the one that leaded the people to say, no, we won't be paying for these things, because we are the one that even help you facilitating the gathering of the data. Now you gather the data and we have to pay for it. So if we don't have such contracts, like I mentioned earlier, to protect some of this level of access, cost of access, who have access, and it might not really be as beneficial as we thought. If all those data, if this place is just a farm, let me just put it like that, you know, if it's just a farm, it's gathered, it's transferred to foreign database, it's processed, and even we ourselves has to like pay more than enough to have access to this data. So, and also the environmental factors. So because the power to run a data center is very heavy.
Yeah, very expensive.
So definitely, because the world is talking about going green, going green, going green. Data center is not really contributing to that positively. There's a lot of carbon emissions, a lot of engines running. It would really impact the environment as well.
And they are cancerous too as well.
So that is why most data centers are located around water. There are even some data center like underneath water, just because of the nature of what it takes to run the data center, because it's running 24/7, power, internet. So it's actually a lot. And in the future, if not properly managed, it could lead to material waste. With level of running the factory, a lot of computers with get spoiled, gadgets would need to be fixed over time. This is also going back to the environment, if not properly managed and monitored, because it is within our system. But if there is good level of contractual agreements has been put in place to favor the continent, and there's an high level of management, I see more of benefits, to say the truth, in this kind of arrangement, because like I said, there is already a grasp of a lot of other sectors. So the tech sector is not like, is when we are trying to fight, is like you are trying to fight the air, and even the fight is not the game of citizen, it's the game of government
and power blocks and all that.
So we can only hear our voice and say, okay, this is how we think it should be, but you know, they have a first insight to these policies, and now it's going to help. So we are having like a second, third, if not like a fifth insight into what they have. So at the baseline, it's supposed to be something that would be beneficial to us. But if not properly managed,
something that will be very disastrous to us
Very,
at the same
very.
time. Now, I want to ask this question. Don't you think that as a way of, because you talked about companies, most of these companies represent their country, which is the truth. A person came here recently on Daybreak Africa, and we were discussing, and he said, why do you think we don't have transnational companies in Africa? Like companies, aside from maybe South Africa, among African nations. A country that claims to be the biggest economy in Africa, like Nigeria, doesn't have much. We don't have up to 2 transnational companies, like companies that they are not just in Nigeria. We can find them in other places, except for maybe few of our banks and all that. Now, don't you think that as a defense, in case of the future, don't you think on a very low or secretive level, Nigeria should begin to train talents to also curtail some of the, dangers that could come out from this in the nearest future?
definitely, if we are putting in the measures, it would really help. And there are a lot of innovations that private sector cannot really power as at now, except like the biggest boys, because we are talking about $80 billion. How many companies?
It's not even the company. The company's budget is not up to 80 billion.
So how many companies can conveniently cough out this level of budget? So an African, and even these foreigners are taking advantage of African talent. Recently, there is a lot of bust in Japa and remote work.
Yeah.
What are people going to do? They are going to
Work in
work.
these companies too as well.
They are going to work. So behind all these innovations, there are Africans at different corners of the world powering it. So if the government can take advantage of that and give an avenue for African to do it, for African companies in African, because there's a lot of factors involved, but the enabling environment by government would go a long way in helping that situation and making the facilities available. Because as it stands now, I don't have the statistics, but as it looks on the internet, like 40 to 50% of our top talent is already out there, as it looks on the internet.
Not just even in tech, even in medicine.
Like, yeah, so in many aspects of life. So that means our talents that are actually innovating for the continent, it's actually very little. So if there is an initiative to help the companies, the local companies, for example, one of the initiatives, because it's hard for local companies to pay competitive salaries, so even most talents would prefer to work for companies abroad, and it's not the fault of local companies, because the economy itself would not allow, due to exchange rate parity and cost of living and many other factors. But if there is initiative that would subsidize some sectors of the economy, let's say for now the government is focusing on AI and saying any business that is viable enough, that has prospects and is well validated, would get this level of funding and this level of investment, you'd see a lot of African startups, African established business. Example, they can even take advantage of established business that already have a traction, so they know that, okay, this money is not like 100% gamble, because these people know how it works. So if there are initiatives around that, it would really help curtail some of the side effects of direct foreign investments in the future. I don't know, is it not last year or 2023 that we heard that an airport was taken over in one African country? Like, things like this will still happen in the future if we continue to just use direct foreign investment that is in no way going to become part of our economy, because what is not yours is not yours.
Definitely.
Anywhere in the world. And one day will come where the owners will demand for their resources, and when they demand for it, when they are gone with it, what is left? That is the question.
When they are done with it, what is actually left? One of the things that baffles me the most is that we have even a ministry that is in charge of communications, ministry in charge of technology and all those kind of things. And I don't know, from your hand, you being an entrepreneur in the aspect of tech in this country, actually, do you think that, do you see any moves by the government whatsoever to at least raise currently, tech giants within the country, across states? Or do you think it's just not a job for the federal government only, but every other sector, like the private public partnership in that aspect?
The federal government has been making great efforts in tech. So in a country like Nigeria in particular, it's a game of three parties. The federal government, the intermediaries, and the recipients.
Okay.
So now in Nigeria, even the little intervention that we have that is coming out, the intermediaries reduce the effects, and even the recipients are not ready to absorb the remaining benefits. They just want to side fund. Let's say the game is, or the offer is, come and learn tech, we'll buy a laptop for you to learn tech, but you will discover that most people are interested in just getting the laptop and using it for whatever they need to use it for.
So that is to say the people themselves are the ones not actually taking the
so we have to work on ourselves a lot. So recently we know of 3MTT. 3MTT is a very great program, but you would see a lot of people go to class because they know that at some point there will be some level of scholarship, monetary scholarship, and once they get, maybe the scholarship is 500,000, 200,000, as immediately they get it, is for family problem or for some other things. And when it comes to research and development, every little penny counts. So if you are giving 10,000 naira and it's a scholarship in tech, a very good investment would be to use it to buy data, and you won't use the data to watch random videos online. You'd use it to download content and visit websites that are related to what they ask you to use it for. Then you would realize that at the end of 1 month, that 10,000 has added value to your life. But reverse is the case in our country for 90% of this form of investment. A lot of people just want to survive. So a lot of people just go to class, pass away the time. So we have to work on the three sectors. So the federal government should churn out more, but I must say the federal government is doing their best. Recently I attended a program, National Digital Bill Formulation Policy. This was the first time. Okay, let me say, I would agree, maybe this is the time I would be part of it, but in the past I've never seen a lot of collaboration, because we were told that they would be holding that particular program across the 36 states to have people dialogue on an incoming bill, hear from experts in the industry, and this is a very welcome idea. So because another thing, that's why I say we have to work on three areas. Another thing about Nigerians, when federal government is coming to say, well, yeah, come and talk, they will just be like, they know what they want to do, they have their own motive, but at least somebody is making an effort.
So giving you a ground to speak.
Yeah, so if somebody is making an effort, so at first you be receptive and be positive, but we have this negative motive indoctrinated into us so much that any positive effort, we even avoid the effect and try not to see it and be looking for the bad coming after the
because of INEC.
So we just be like, even this program, they use it to side fund money. Only God knows the billion they've allocated for this small program, but an effort is being made. Because if, as an entrepreneur, if I make a little effort and there's no result, I would not want to make an higher effort in that same area field, because there are other competing places where you can make. So let's say with 3MTT program, if the government is trying to raise 3 million and at the end of the day they are unable to realize 100,000 experts, that is, and this is like the basics of tech. Basics of tech like web development, data analysis, and tech skills. Like I said, if this set of people are able to learn conveniently, like if we have 3 million people that actually learn this thing successfully, then we can say like 2035 to 2050 or 2060 is secured in terms of talent. Because
and even the base of data collections and all that data gathering.
Exactly, because those talents are not actually for today. It's only a little fraction of them that would be useful in the next few years. But people would grow over time. Then you would see them growing from intern to junior level developer to mid-level developer, then some of them going into hardware, because that's the way it works in tech. You grow over time. So I see these opportunities as a way to liberate Nigerians, although there are a lot of other things that I personally think the government could do better. For example, we have a lot of graduates in computer science, engineering across the country every year. And even in the school where I graduated alone, University of Ilorin, I know exceptional talents that goes from time to time. For example, if somebody is in school and the project is how to generate light using a transformer, you should know that this person's brain is wired to develop great stuffs. This person should not just go out there and be looking for jobs or anything. This person should be in R&D
or be picked up by a company and they are just training the person up to
because even if the company is established and have the talents they need today, they are building the person for the next generation. So that's the way it works. We see people building walking stick for the blind. So the way innovation works is once your brain is wired to innovate with more exposure,
you begin to innovate the more and the more and go higher
at a higher level. So most of the time I see a lot of talents going back to the beginning because the truth is in social life everybody is not on the same ladder.
At all.
Everybody is not on the same ladder. For exceptional talent that has been exceptional while in school, most of them should not just graduate. Even if possible, some of them should skip service here.
Or maybe they could even use the service here to train. Because honestly, for the government to create something like SAID and skill development in service here shows that they are interested in that.
So like what I'm just trying to say is like there is a lot of talent over time that if properly owned, they are the future of whatever we call innovation in Africa and the world at large. But it's only lower percentage of this talent because we have them as friends. Even if I'm going to look at my circle, people that were exceptional while we were in school, and the people that are actually using the talent, because you know there's high level of structural unemployment. People using their skills for what is lesser than their capabilities. So there is high level of that. If the government could help work on that, because R&D is a very important aspect of any country. So I have like a brother that went to China and it was like the innovations that we are seeing today is just a fraction of the ideas and the completed invention that is still kept in a library. Like they have an innovation library, project of students, project of companies that is okay, don't release this one yet. Let's just keep it. We'll be releasing it at some time later in the future. And a lot more research is going. A lot of private sector are trying to cover this gap. A lot of private sector, I follow them online.
Some of their efforts,
like they are doing exceptionally well. But the truth is just that with level of investment involved and the exchange rate parity, because in Nigeria, for example, if you're a billionaire and you have 10 billion naira, by the time you turn it to USD,
you are still a millionaire.
You understand? So, and for you to gather 10 billion naira from Nigeria economy, it's not a joke.
You did too well.
So, but in order to get some hardware that are not even locally available, by the time they just charge you in dollars, $100,000, $1 million, 500.
You are paying heavily from your nose already.
So, before you know it, what you say you have as big capital is entirely gone. So that is why we need direct intervention when it comes to R&D. Like we have a lot of young people that are into robotics. I see at times I see it on X when people start abusing people that Nigeria we're only good at making small robots and cars, but like I languish, like I'm not happy when I see such comments because I know the person that builds a small robot can actually build a plane. But if this person is to attempt building a plane, where would he get the material? How would he be able to afford it? Once we are trying to survive, we are trying to eat, we are trying to sleep and wake up, we are trying not to be scammed. So if anybody can manage to do a little thing, for me, I kind of expatiate that little thing into like the times 1,000, like times 1 million. With little ability, you can do much more. And that is what we have to like invest in Nigeria, because there's a lot of people with ability, but because of the lack of resources, like there's no level. That's one of the reasons why I love software, because it gives me a lot of power in terms of everything is kind of remote. If I love hardware now, It only takes the grace of God to finance myself and maintain the passion. You get the point?
Yeah.
Because by the time I get few hardware, every money I have is gone. Every money is gone. And hardware is the future of technology. Because like we have data centers, we have robotics, we have Internet of Things, we have the machine learning, we have smart devices everywhere. So hardware, everything is like becoming smart. So, but it is not easy
to access those things because of the funds attached to it.
Yeah, because of the funds. So there's need for a lot of R&D. If our government can look into that and kind of gather the best talent without any form of partiality, like just gather the best talent, they will be shocked as to the results we would have in little time. So going back to the beginning of the question, the government is really doing well, but we have to work on ourselves as citizens. The little result, the little things that is coming out, they are even funding for SMEs.
Stuff like this.
Yeah, like I could see digital startups. Like I was even contacted. I was surprised when I was called as Nigerian digital startup. I was trying to check if it's a scam, and I realized it's not a scam. Actually, yeah. They are trying to index companies. I've seen talks with people like Ikhonede. I know a lot of people say it's politics, but like I said, we should be positive.
Yeah, the positivity part is where most Nigerians miss it out.
That's just the truth. We've seen people like Bosun Tijani, like these are like they are not like adults like the adult that we used to know to handle these things. These people are still in vogue. They know what is really needed. Like they are. You understand what I'm trying to say?
I really understand.
They can navigate, but everybody will just say it's politics. It's politics. So for me, whenever I see a little light, especially where it is always dark,
at least you try to access the light, because the light could lead to a bigger light.
Yeah, so that's because somebody is making an effort. That's one thing that we have to realize in Nigeria. An effort is made, and we have to be partners to that effort in order to make it work. Because the government cannot make it work on their own. They are government of the people. They are not government of themselves. So we as citizens, we should work on ourselves. The interventions that are coming out, maximize it, and also try to reduce the corruption in the system so that the intermediaries don't reduce the effect of what is coming out. Then our government should focus on R&D, picking up talent and helping them get to the top of their career. And in the nearest future, like 5 to 10 years, Nigeria and Africa would be like sought after when it comes to technological innovation.
Hopefully we'll get to that level. Actually, I like the fact you even said that people should take advantage. So sometimes it's not always totally about the government's inabilities. No matter how dark things seem, appreciate efforts, take advantages of the efforts. Thanks so much, Biodun, for being a part of this discussion. I really appreciate how far we have gone so far. Yes, like you said, Nigeria has a lot to gain actually from this, but then we all also need to play our own role. As the government plays their role, we the people must play our role at the same time to ensure that this actually works and it takes us to the next level. It's time to go for sports actually, but first let's thank you once again for this.
Thank you
I
for
really
joining
appreciate
us.
Thanks for
so
joining
much.
us
It's great to be
actually.
here.
So it's time to go for sports. Enjoying sports today.